All right. Hello, everybody. It looks like we are live. I'm so excited to be here with you today. If we haven't met yet, my name is Emma Lewzey. I am the founder and CEO of 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏 Philanthropy, and I help fundraising teams develop the skills, the strategies, and the systems they need to raise more major gifts. So I want to welcome you to our live, and I have an ask of you to start off. I would love to hear from you. I want you to go ahead and let me know, drop in the comments and let me know where you are joining us from today. So let me know where you're joining us from today. And I'd also love, if you're catching up on the replay, welcome, welcome. I'd also love for you to go ahead and comment with the hashtag replay. All right, my friends, so go ahead and let us know where you are joining from. And also, if you're catching up on the replay, just go ahead and comment with the hashtag replay. So we are going to be diving into a topic today that's very close to my heart personally. And that is, hello, Faith from YW. Nice to see you. And that is, we're going to be talking about how to keep up your major gift momentum over the summer. So welcome, welcome. And we're also going to be talking about how to keep that momentum up while getting the rest that you need. So this balance is really, really important. And I'm going to be weaving that into our conversation today. So hello, Candace. So nice to see you. Great to see some familiar faces on this live today. So with that, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the study I read that actually inspired today. And that is a study done by Captivate Network that said 45% of us identified feeling a lot more distracted than usual over the summer. And I think that resonates with a lot of us, right? So hi, Sheila, good to see you. So that resonates with a lot of us. So if you are someone who feels a little more distracted, finding it a little bit harder to focus, even more so than usual, over the summer, then this session is for you. And I also want you to know you're not alone in that, right? A lot of research has shown this is a really common challenge. So I'm going to share with you a few of my favorite tips, my favorite tricks to help you stay more focused and build your momentum this summer without sacrificing your time off and your fun in the sun. Hello, Marilyn. It's so great to see folks joining us from all over the place. If you are just joining now, go ahead and drop a comment, say hello, let me know where you're joining from. I would love to hear from you. And as we go along, if any questions come up for you, here's the fun thing about being live, or even if you're catching up on the replay, go ahead and drop your questions in the comments. I'll get to as many of those as possible. And I will come back if you're catching up on the replay and catch up on your questions as well. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. And my first tip for you sounds deceptively simple, and that is make sure that you have a plan. Now, I just finished this week doing my own quarterly planning process, and this is an approach that I recommend for everybody. So what I do is do a plan every quarter. What I do is I look back at what happened at the last quarter, and then I look ahead at what's happening in the upcoming quarter. And this doesn't have to be super complicated. It can be a really great way to reorient yourself and also just take the opportunity to really celebrate all that you've accomplished in the last quarter before you go charging ahead into what's next. This is one of the things that I've noticed in working with a lot of clients who are really successful in fundraising is we often don't take the time to reflect and celebrate. So if this is you as well, know that you're not alone. But this can be a very, very powerful way for you to move forward, for you to make sure that you are recharging and recognizing everything that you've already accomplished, because I guarantee you it has been a lot. And once you look back and reflect on that, you'll really see that. So thinking about having a plan for the summer, you might like to think about approaching this quarterly approach where you're looking at what's happening in July, in August, in September. And this can be really helpful even if you are working from a bigger annual plan. Now, I'm guessing that a lot of you might be saying right now, What plan are you talking about, Emma? It's surprising. Even medium and very large shops will often be operating like without a very specific plan for what's going on in your fundraising. And if that is you, I want to say there are always ways that you can implement planning practices. You might even like to keep it very simple. Perhaps you don't have an overall organizational plan. Perhaps you have a very large, complex organizational plan, but you can still keep it simple. You might like to look ahead at July and August and say, okay, what are my top 3 priorities for July and August? And, you know, just to keep focused in that sense. So that can be very powerful. And I think oftentimes we go too far into the complexity. We try and make our plans too big, too all-encompassing, and it can be super powerful just to say, what are the 3 things that are going to move the needle the most for my major gifts over the next couple of months? So hopefully you find that helpful. I'm going to recommend that you implement that planning process and think about keeping it simple. Perhaps just thinking, is this something that we want to focus on our top 3 priorities? I also want to talk really briefly before I move on to tip number 2 about the idea of having a plan for each of your major donors and prospects. Now, planning out your touch points month by month is so powerful, but I find also where folks get a little stuck here is it can feel really overwhelming to approach this idea of saying, okay, I need a plan for every donor. When you look at the size of your portfolio, that can seem very daunting. So I want to recommend a very similar approach to you, is that maybe you're thinking about your top 10 donors that you want to move forward over the summer. Maybe you're even just thinking about your top 3. Whatever's manageable for you, just figure out what is manageable for you and make that commitment, because every step you take, even if it's just focusing on moving one donor relationship forward over the summer, that can be very, very powerful. And taking significant steps on those things that move the needle the most for you can actually be more powerful than your attention being diffused and taken off in too many directions. So make sure you have a plan, do those donor action plans, don't get overwhelmed by it, and think about what's manageable for you. Maybe it is your top 3 priorities. Maybe it is just your top 3 donors, and thinking about what will move the needle forward the most, what will have the greatest impact over the upcoming couple of months. So my second tip for you is a little bit counterintuitive. Often when I talk with clients about this on coaching calls, they're a little bit skeptical. But my second tip for you is summer is a great time to land more donor meetings, right? And this is contrary to popular belief. I find often when I speak with fundraisers, they're talking about or sort of having this broader belief that summertime is the time that my major donors are going to be away. They're all at the cottage. They don't want to meet with me. They don't want to be thinking about this. They want to be relaxing. They want to be unplugging. That may be some of your donors, but I really want to caution you against making that really broad generalization with your donors, because I'll let you in on a little secret. I found that summertime was the most powerful time to land donor meetings when I was a frontline fundraiser. And the reason for that is this. I think over summer, the pace tends to relax a little bit for a lot of folks if they're still working in the office. People tend to be a little more relaxed. And I found it is actually easier sometimes with some donors to land a meeting over the summer. And the bonus here is that a lot of other fundraisers are actually buying into that belief that they're not going to get any meetings over the summer, that all their donors are away. So it makes for a slightly less crowded playing field, if you will. And I just got this comment from Candace. I want to read this out. I love this. So yes, we just had this conversation in a staff meeting. Many folks assumed summer would be more relaxed because everyone we want to talk to is out of town, and this is not the case. So I love that. Candace agrees, and I think for many of you, you will see these same patterns if you go ahead and start reaching out to donors more proactively during the summertime. So it's quieter, they're going to be getting fewer requests, time is more relaxed, and not everybody disappears to their cottage. So I just wanted to say this is a wonderful time. So don't buy into that assumption that nobody's going to want to meet with you. It can, in fact, be one of the most powerful times to meet with donors. Now, oftentimes when I'm talking about landing donor meetings, I hear about the challenges that folks are facing right now, and hearing that, people don't want to meet with me. I'm not getting a lot of take up when I'm offering meetings. And I want to offer you a super quick tip on this. And this has actually been so common. It's inspired my next live. So make sure that you stay tuned, make sure that you follow me here, or you sign up for my email list, because I'm going to be talking about, when we return in July, how to land more donor meetings. So I'm going to give you lots of practical tips on that. I'm going to give you a little quick tip right now. Is one thing that I notice when fundraisers are looking to book meetings with their donors is they forget something really crucial. And it's an analogy that's been around, or an acronym that's been around for a long time. And it stands basically for, what's in it for me? I know that they use this in sales and marketing a lot, and I find it absolutely applies to booking donor meetings as well. Too often we're going into donor meetings and maybe, our request is, I'd love to meet, this is a common one, I'd love to meet and update you on what's going on at our organization and our programs and our services. And then we hear crickets, right? We hear crickets. So the reason for that is we haven't sat down and given thought to what's in it for the donor. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more when we reconvene in July for my next live. So make sure that you are following me, and the best way to keep up to date on that is to make sure that you are signed up on my email list, because I always let my email folks know first about any lives and trainings and resources that I have available for you. Okay, so I wanted to move on to tip number 3 here, and that is the idea of blocking your time. So I want to hear from you if you are already using time blocking, sometimes called time boxing. I want you to drop the word time blocking into the comments. I want to hear who is already using time blocking as a part of their day-to-day organization and planning. So go ahead and drop that in. I'm hoping I see a couple of time blockings for folks who do this. And if this is a new concept to you, it is very similar. It's very simple, pardon me. It is simply the idea of scheduling out time in your calendar for specific activities and tasks. And I like to add something onto there as well. I like to add on, it's scheduling out committed time on your calendar to make sure that you're tackling your highest priorities. Because let's face it, as major gift fundraisers, often what we're doing is very important, but it's not urgent, right? There isn't necessarily a set deadline for booking donor meetings, for doing our cultivation and stewardship for our donors, as there is in other departments. There's always set deadlines for the direct marketing campaign. There's set deadlines for our gala events. So we have to be extra mindful as major gift fundraisers to be sure that we're carving out our time and making sure that we are tackling those activities that are the highest priority, that are going to have the highest impact. So I love this. I see from folks, Emily, Sheila, Candace, Faith, everybody is saying time blocking. So they are, oh, and Candace, this is new to you. I love this. So this is a good opportunity for us to chat more about time blocking. So what I want to address when I'm talking about time blocking is a mistake I see folks often make when they're starting out with time blocking. And that is they try and schedule every minute of the day and block that out, which is an approach that is occasionally recommended. I personally do not recommend this, because what happens is we schedule out our days, we time block out our days, and I will guarantee almost immediately you'll get discouraged. You'll get discouraged because it's going to go off the rails. You're going to get interrupted. You're going to get emailed by your boss to get called into an emergency meeting. You're going to be, interrupted by your kids on a day you can't get childcare. So What I want to recommend is that you start small, especially if you're new to time blocking. And what I will often recommend is that you do it in the mornings. Everybody is a little different, but generally the majority of us are kind of at our peak energy or peak creativity, probably not first thing. I'm not a super early bird myself, but that morning time, kind of, I would say between like 10 and noon can be the time where we are thinking the most clearly, where we are most able to tackle those highest priorities. And the irony for a lot of us is that time typically ends up, kind of going away and disappearing really quickly, just for example, by responding to emails, working reactively, getting in the Slack. So I want to recommend to you, if you're just starting out, think about even blocking out one day a week, one time block a week. Maybe it's an hour, maybe it's even 90 minutes. One morning a week where you focus on your highest priority that's related to your major gifts. Something that is very crucially important, but perhaps doesn't have a natural deadline attached to it. I often recommend folks try this with booking donor meetings, right? So scheduling that time in the morning, maybe one morning or more mornings a week if you're able to do that, and really focusing on that, landing those donor meetings, following up with donors, and seeing if that makes a difference. So I'm seeing from Marilyn too as a time blocking fan. And I'd love to hear from you if you are a time blocking fan. If you have any other great tips to share that I haven't shared, go ahead and drop those in the comments too. And I will read those out because I always love tapping into the wisdom of the room. And I'm sure you have good recommendations for folks as well. So time blocking, if you're just getting started, I want to recommend that you start small. Maybe start in the morning. Think about starting with a block or maybe more than one block over a couple of days a week of an hour, of even 90 minutes. And my final tip here is that you protect that time. I'll often say, when I do time blocking like that, I treat it like it's a meeting with a major donor. So that is not going to get moved unless there is an absolute emergency. I would treat that like a long-standing meeting with my boss. So I really want to recommend you think about treating those commitments to yourself as equally as important as those commitments to other folks, whether that's your boss, whether that's a donor. So that is my tip for you around time blocking. And I'm going to let you in on a little time blocking secret that is actually the secret sauce for my next tip. And that is, when I'm time blocking, I actually start by time blocking my leisure time, my time off, and my time with family. So that goes into the calendar first. Okay, I know that's a little bit mind-blowing probably for folks. And I know you may be thinking it's easy for me to say as someone who does run their own business, but I think I've seen this work really well across all sorts of different folks, different fundraisers. And even if you're just scheduling in your one highest priority, rest time, leisure time, like your vacation, this can be really powerful. So that's my tip to you, is to think about blocking out that downtime, leisure time, vacation time, time with family. Get that in the calendar first before you populate it with other work activities. Now, this relates closely to my tip number 4, which is how incredibly important it is for you to take your vacation and your time off. So I'm mentioning this because it's very interesting. I read a couple of recent studies, one of which was looking at North America, and in 21 countries, looking at their paid time off, North Americans have the absolute lowest amount of time of paid time off of the 21 countries. And we're also actually the least likely to take the time off that we do have, right? So this is something that's really important for you to think about, to schedule in. And perhaps it is what you schedule in first. Perhaps you get off this call, and if you haven't booked your vacation time yet, I hope you have. If you haven't booked your vacation time yet, that you go and you block that out right now. I'm going to talk a bit more about vacation time, but I just wanted to get into some other time blocking tips as well from Emily as a longtime time blocker. I like having recurring blocks of time on my calendar for routine tasks, so I make sure I have time for them. I love that. Thank you calls, donor outreach, donor meetings, and follow up to donors. Super powerful, Emily, and that is a great tip and a great way to use time blocking. Yes, Eleanor, important but not urgent. That's something that comes up a lot with major gift fundraising because it simply does not have the same built-in deadlines that so many other kinds of fundraising do. If you look at the whole fundraising pie at your organization, you will see grant writing has built-in deadlines. You will see events have built-in deadlines. You will see your direct marketing all has built-in deadlines. So making sure that we are actively creating the time to do our work is crucially important because there is not necessarily a natural built-in deadline for our major gift work. Okay, I'm so glad that resonated with you, Eleanor. All right, and we're seeing from somebody, yes, okay, great. Glad you're joining us. All right, so I want to talk a little bit more about vacation, and I actually also want to hear from you. I want to hear if you've booked your vacation time yet. So go ahead and drop the word vacation below, and I want to talk a little bit more about why vacation is so important. I'm just back quite recently from a large conference, and I have to say the topic of conversation was the prevalence of burnout in our sector. And this has been a problem for a long time, but it's just becoming more and more prevalent among folks. And while I want to emphasize that taking your vacation time is not a cure-all for all of the issues that contribute to burnout, I do want to say that it is part of our own, something we typically have control over, that can really impact our ability to rest and recharge. All right, so I'm seeing a few folks, vacation. I love this. Somebody took 2 weeks in late May. Everyone is going to Italy. I'm so jealous. All right, Emily has vacation coming up in a couple of weeks. I love this. I love this. So if you haven't booked your vacation yet, do make sure you book that in, because it can go a really long way. And I often see leaders foregoing their vacation, but encouraging their teams to take vacation. And I want to say that almost never works, because if you're a leader, your team is watching you very closely, and they're watching what you do more than what you say. So if your team is watching you working a ton of overtime, not taking your vacation time, chances are they are going to follow in those footsteps. So role modeling, resting, recharging, and taking that vacation time, I actually see that and often frame it as an important responsibility of leaders, right? Because you do want to be role modeling this, and our teams are watching us, right? Our teams are watching us. And with the prevalence of burnout, it is one step that we can take to make sure that we are resting and recharging, right? Among many different steps. I know it is much more complex an issue than just taking your vacation, but that is it is a start, right? It's a start, and it's something that we all will have control over. All right. Ooh, I love this. We've got lots of good vacations coming in. This is a group that takes their vacation time very seriously, and I want to commend you for that, right? So I was reading a study that said, I think close to 46% of people, this was in the US, didn't take their paid time off. So they have paid time off and they don't take it. And the top 2 reasons were, first, they didn't feel like they needed it. Which I'm like, maybe you need to slow down and take a minute to reflect, because probably you do. But the second issue was folks felt like they were going to get behind in their work, right? So this can be definitely a big challenge and a big barrier. But I like to reframe this a little bit, because when we don't get the rest we need and we're working all the hours and working overtime and not taking our vacation time, right? Ultimately, we get impacted by the laws of diminishing returns, right? Like, we're not machines, we're humans. And if we're not getting the rest we need, we're actually not going to be able to be effective in our jobs. So just keeping going, not taking the time because we're afraid we're going to fall behind, actually counterintuitively probably makes us fall more behind because we're running on fumes, we're not rested, and we're not doing our most effective work. I love this. Okay, from Candace. You are dealing with this right now. Oh, you've got a team member who is messaging you while on vacation. Who else recognizes this, right? It's like you're on vacation, but you're still plugged in, right? So I think this is a great point I want to add when we're thinking about that time off, the importance of unplugging, right? The importance of unplugging, because it's not really time off if we're connected all the time, right? It is really, really important to unplug and role model this, especially if you are a leader, and let your team know this is the expectation, right? We're going to take care of things while you're gone. And my expectation is that you're not checking your email and you're not checking your Slack, right? So, and that we're role modeling that as well, because there is always someone on the team who is able to kind of pick up. And if they can't pick up, whatever has come up can wait until you return, right? There's nothing that's so important that you need to be on call all the time. So I know that might be a challenging statement for many folks because there is a bit of a pattern, especially amongst leaders, to be kind of permanently plugged in, permanently working, very challenging, right? Oh my gosh, I love this from Sheila. Sheila has a team manifesto. This is beautiful. And we do not email, we do not text, or we do not call anyone when on vacation. I love this. I want all of us to adopt Sheila's team manifesto. And this is actually really interesting. I'm so glad you dropped this because, like, how great and how easy at your next team meeting you could perhaps get some agreement together and say, listen, resting and unplugging is really important. So, and here's why, because burnout is at an unprecedented rate in our sector. And if we're not getting the rest we need, we're not recharging, right? This is going to have a huge impact on our work, on our organization, and our ability to deliver on our mission. So as a team, let's all agree when we are resting, when we are on vacation, when we are on our downtime, that we're unplugging and that we're not emailing, texting, or calling, right? I love it. I love it. I do it, but it's not a manifesto. Yes, you can. I like the seriousness, I think, of that, but definitely, I think if these have been shared, they are definitely for you to adopt and to adapt for your own personal needs. But I love this. So simple. Doesn't even need to be a policy per se. It can simply be a discussion where you all agree. And I think your team is really going to appreciate that, right? So I love this. So I'm just having a look at the time. We're almost at the half an hour mark. So I'm going to wrap up, but I will open things up to say, if anyone has any questions that you want to go ahead, since we're all together, we're having such a great conversation. If you want to go ahead and drop them below, we can continue chatting. But I just want to say how great it's been to be live again with you and get so much engagement, so many good ideas. And I really hope that this has been helpful for you in terms of keeping things on track this summer, building your major gift momentum without sacrificing your rest, your vacation, and your downtime, because it's so important. It needs to be prioritized so that you can continue doing your best at work and return to work rested and recharged. Excuse me. I'm just gonna have a sip of my water. I had a little catch in my throat there. Okay, so go ahead if you have any other questions. I will just let you know again, if you missed it, that the next time we go live in July, I'm going to go ahead and send that out. It'll be around the same time in later July. We are going to be talking about how to land more donor meetings. So I'm going to be diving deeper into that. If it's something you're interested in, I want you to go ahead and follow me here on LinkedIn, or you can also go ahead and join our email list. So in fact, if you join our email list, we have a new edition of my newsletter, the Major Gift Insider, going out shortly. So we'll make sure that we update this video description so you can find a link to join the newsletter and email list there. And then you'll also get notice of next time I go live, when we are going to be talking about how to land more donor meetings and dive into all of my practical tips on that. All right, my friends, it's been so good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. And I wish you all the best this summer. It's so nice to see all of you. I wish you all the best this summer. I want to wish you many major gifts and lots of resting and recharging and lots of summer fun, because it is possible to both build your major gift momentum and have fun and take your time off and rest and recharge this summer. All right, my friends, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.